Greetings viewers, if you click the video title, you're here to learn about how to convert a CED 7000 series or newer shot timer to have RF capabilities. When I first purchased this thing, I had the option of buying it plain or with the RF. I didn't think I was going to need the RF. It cost an extra 20 bucks or so, and I didn't want to spend the money at the time, so I got the basic version. Lo and behold, I decided that I want to start using the big board display, which you saw in the thumbnail and we'll go over after this section, for my shooting videos. So when I'm outside shooting, I can save a little bit of time in post, not having to add the time in for you. You can see it live while I'm shooting, which means I can shoot a little bit more and a little bit longer each take. Anyway, come to find out, you can just convert this thing from a plain timer to an RF timer, and all it requires is this little RF chip. I purchased it for exactly $20 from 4shooters.com. The shipping was super quick. I'm not sponsored by them or anything cool. I'm not fancy enough for that. I did spend my own money on it, but I highly recommend. I'd never heard of them before. It's the first time I've ever ordered anything, and I was not disappointed. 2 days after my order, they said it was shipped, and 2 days after that, it was in my mailbox. So you didn't come here to listen to me talk about that. You're here to learn about how to do this, so let's jump into it. So all you're gonna need for this job is a small Phillips screwdriver and a small flathead screwdriver or something to pry with. I'm using this convenient tool here, which has both on it. It's got a little Phillips head screwdriver on here and a flat one on here. This is just some little junky one got as a giveaway thing somewhere. I don't even know where it came from, but I know many people that have these just by happenstance. So on the back side of the timer here on the bottom, there is a hole for 2 Phillips head screws. And all we have to do is just remove those. So once the screws are out, put them somewhere safe so that they don't fly away on you and get lost. Now, we need to pry this thing apart. The only problem is this thing is basically a sandwich, and this seam right here is where your peanut butter and jelly would go on the bread, and we cannot bend this thing at an angle, so you can't just pop one end and then just twist it off. There are pins connecting one side to the other, so if you twist this thing either direction, whether it's up or down or left or right, it's going to bend and potentially break those pins. So once we separate this thing, you have to pull it apart this direction, straight away from each other, then that way we don't break anything, and I'll kind of show you a little bit closer view when we open it up so you understand what I'm talking about. But the first thing we'll do is we'll take the flat end of our screwdriver here, we'll just place it in between the seam and give it a little twist, and you'll see that it started to separate. We'll do the same thing on the bottom, and then we'll flip it over and do the same thing on this side. Just kind of wiggle it in there, give it a twist, get down between this seam, twist. Now, as I take this apart, I'm just going to pull the 2 pieces away from each other, and the reason for that, there are pins right here and right here that correspond to those 2 slots where you see the 6 and the 4 holes, and so they have to go in straight to each other. And the same thing when you put it back together, you got to be very careful to make sure you line those up and squish them together like that. You cannot peel this thing apart. Now, the part we're going to be looking for right here is these 4 pins that are coming out right here. And this is our RF chip. It's pretty small. This is just a little rubber block here. I know some of the ones that people get, it has a sticker piece, so you have to peel off a little thing and it'll be sticky. This one is just rubber. I've checked it 100 times to make sure I'm not missing something. There is no paper, no sticky anything on here. It's just kind of like a rubber buffer to keep this thing from rattling around. This little connector right here where these 4 holes are where it's going to interface with those 4 pins. Very easy to do. We just put the side that has those holes down, and so again, that little rubber bumper or sticky piece is going to go onto your circuit board here. We're going to line this up so those 4 pins go into those 4 holes. May have to tilt this a little bit. All right. Just take your time, don't try and force it. If you break those pins, this is not going to work, and then you are going to need a new timer if you want RF capability. So just make sure this slides in now all the way. So you can see the connection down here has been made. This is pushed all the way on. Our little rubber bumper is up against the chip, and that's it. That's all this thing takes, and then you just reassemble it and you have RF capabilities on your shot timer. So this is going to be the hardest part, and again, make sure that you take your time. You need to line up these 4 pins with these 4 holes and these 6 pins with these 6 holes, all at the same time while you're sandwiching it back together. The easiest thing to do is kind of, again, go at that angle I said not to go in, just to line yourself up, and then you just kind of bring the 2 halves together. As long as your outer seams and everything out here is lined up, then you're basically there where it needs to be. Your timer may turn on once it starts kind of making connection. You can see it kicked itself on as soon as it got that battery signal. Just make sure it's snapped all the way. Check your seam here so that it looks the same all the way down. One side's not bigger than the other. Come down here, so we look at this side, this one's a little bit bigger. Just make sure we snap it together. Now we're uniform all the way across. And now what we can do is we hit the menu button and we just keep scrolling all the way down. And once you get all the way to the bottom, you'll actually be able to select RFID, where previously if you tried this without the chip in there, or if you're looking to see if your timer is even RF capable, this is how you would do that. If you get down to this and you see RFID and you keep pushing down and it will not advance past that, then that means you don't have the ability. So now if you go down to RFID, you can select it and then select your code so that you're able to link it with the board, which we'll do next. All right, so we've got our CED Big Board Display here. We've got our timer. This thing is powered by a 9-volt battery, or there is also a DC input for 9 volt here if you happen to have a power pack that supports that sort of voltage. It is not supplied with one, and I did not see one anywhere on the website, so I don't know where you would find a dedicated one of those, but perhaps it's out there and I just missed it. The battery compartment is right here. You just slide this plate off. Take your 9-volt battery. As usual, there's indicators inside which show you, or that show you which terminal goes to what. Pop it in there, put the cover on. So this is my first time powering this thing up, but from what I've read and what I understand, you do have to manually connect this thing every single time with the RFID signal. On this same side where the battery compartment is and these buttons are, there's an on-off switch, so we just turn it on and we're gonna see these blinking numbers here. So we'll go ahead and turn our timer on. We're gonna go to menu. We're gonna go all the way down to that RFID that I showed you. What you have to do is you have to set an RFID code that's 4 digits that's gonna match the board display with this timer. Obviously, if you're at some sort of competition or something and you're trying to link specific timers with specific boards on different stages and you don't want people's different timers messing with them, obviously you need to coordinate who's using what code on what timer. So, all right, so once we turn it on, we're gonna be presented with 4 zeros on here. The first one on the left-hand side is gonna be blinking. That means it's ready to have its code set. So we are gonna go on the back side here. You have 3 buttons. You have set, clear, and next. So we're gonna put our finger on the set button and I'm gonna click it, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make it 1, 2, 3, 4. So now that I've got that at 1, there I'm gonna hit the next button. I'm gonna click set twice. I'm gonna click next. Go to 3, hit next. So now our code is gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. So then we go into our timer here and we click menu. We scroll all the way down to that RFID setting. We're gonna click RFID and we are gonna change this to 1, 2, 3, 4. We hit enter, so that's set. All right, so once we get to our last digit here, we hit next. All 4 of them are gonna blink. We're gonna press the set button, and it's now set, and it's going to be solid on this code until your timer starts working. I have the sensitivity cranked up on this right now just so I can clap my hands loud enough close to it and make it go off, just so you can see it's on here. We have set the code as 1, 2, 3, 4 in our timer. So I'm going to hit start. It does have a 3-second delay on it. And you can see it'll automatically start transmitting those times to the screen. Now, when I go back and review them on here, it does not go back and review them on the board, so you just kind of have to be watching it as it's going off. But again, when I have it set up for my videos when I'm shooting, it'll give you a little bit quicker idea of where the shots are coming from rather than me having to go in and post and edit them in. Well, one of the things I like about it is it comes in this nice handy case. It's zippered, and it has these 2 little feet in here. So the thing that I don't like about this is it's very limited in options of what you can do with it. I'm not sure what kind of a joke this is, but this is labeled as a belt clip. This is, I mean, just look at the size of my hands. I'm not gonna strap this thing on my belt. So I guess if you find some sort of piece of metal or something to sit this on and stand it up, that'll work. It does not have any sort of a mount for a tripod down here. So unless you find something that mounts to one that can grip, which I'm gonna be on the lookout for because that would be nice to have. The only other option that you get for displaying with this thing is these 2 little feet. And the way these work is you have obviously your bigger end and your smaller end. You go to the bottom and you just kind of rock these into place on the bottom, and they become feet for standing this thing up on a table or something. So that's probably what I'm going to end up having to do with it to start with, is I'll just set it on my little white table I'm out there shooting in a place that it can be seen by the camera. And if I find another better option for this thing, I'm going to go with that. But for now, that's all I have. So the only thing that's left for me to do is to take this thing outside and actually put some rounds downrange, and we'll see how well it works and how well you can actually see it on camera with the sun shining. All right, so I'm not really gonna know how well that looked on camera or how well it kept up with the actual shot clock until I go inside and start reviewing the footage. So I'm gonna go ahead and call this video here. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.